Hey Fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps with Behind the Gloves in association with Fresco Box, and I'm here with the one and only Paulie Malignaggi. We are here at the Park Plaza Hotel about to kick off the David Haye, Tony Bellew rematch press conference. First of all, I want to ask you, first of all, how are you doing? How are you enjoying London?
I'm good. After enjoying Manchester, I'm now enjoying London.
Which do you prefer of the two?
I don't know. Manchester's easier to get around.
Yeah, it is,
London is probably more to do, but Manchester's still a fun city.
So we have this grudge match going on between Tony Bellew and David Haye. Do you think that it's genuine animosity, or do you think it's really all for show?
I think after the first fight, there's the mutual respect for one another. They got to make a lot of money off each other, and obviously they fought each other. So I think when you fight somebody, not all the time, but usually when you fight somebody, you gain that respect for them, afterwards, and so there's a competitive fire, but you still have that respect, So I think there's probably more respect for one another this time than there was last time. But as the fight gets closer, and then you start to feel the heat and the pressure of the moment, you start to talk a bit more, and you start to get into that fight mode. And that fight mode, obviously, nobody's going to be your friend anymore, So I think it's fight week, and they're in fight mode at this point. But I think underneath all of that, they now do respect each other.
Well, Tony Bellew said that no matter who wins Saturday night, he does not intend on shaking David Haye's hand because of the outcome of last time. That even though they shook hands, they thought it was just, typical fighter talk. David went ahead and continued to talk afterwards, didn't give him the credit he deserves. What do you make of that?
I think, Tony's a genuine stand-up guy, and I think at the end of the fight Saturday, he'll probably shake hands, Especially if he wins, he'll shake hands, I don't think Tony is a guy who, would win and then tell you to go screw off or whatnot, So I think in the moment, the way he's feeling right now, he really feels like he doesn't want to shake hands, And I think, that's pretty normal, and that's fine, that you're not there to go play ping pong or table tennis, so you're going there to fight each other. So I don't mind that, the competitive spirit is in there, and then there's a bad blood, and he's feeling animosity at the moment. But I think beneath all that, when the fight's over and the final bell rings, I think you can let all that go, and usually guys are pretty respectful of one another.
Now, the first time around, we saw David Haye do a lot of talking. This time around, it seems like he's really kept it to a minimum. I don't know what to expect today. I know in Liverpool, he didn't do as much as we maybe were anticipating he would do. Why do you think that is?
I think he's trying to play cool. Yesterday he talked a little bit. It's fight week now, so I'm sure he'll be a bit more animated. But I think he's trying to play cool to where he's trying to make Tony overconfident. I feel like when I'm looking at him, I feel like that's a psychological ploy he's playing. He's trying to take is that let me play the humble role. Let Tony do all the talking. Let Tony feel like he's really confident. But subtly, I'm actually training a lot harder for this fight than he did for the first fight, At least I would assume so, because for the first fight I was in camp in Miami with him. He wasn't doing anything at all, or barely anything. So I think there's a quiet confidence about David, but you still have to keep in mind about David. As much as talent as he has, David is more talented probably than Tony. You still have to wonder if the fight gets to a dark place, to a tough place, to a place where you have to dig down. How much is he willing to dig down? That's always been the question revolving around David Haye. And no matter how focused he is, if Tony can take the fight to that place, and David is focused and sharp, but now you got to go to that place again. Are you willing to go to that place? And that's always the question mark. And I think that's the question mark for Saturday night.
Paulie, what does your gut tell you?
My gut tells me David's going to be sharp for this fight. But my gut tells me if Tony can survive the early rounds, we're still looking at a situation where David's going to be uncomfortable. So I don't know. I think when David said the last time he could knock Tony out early, I don't think he was prepared to knock Tony out early. Just throwing big bombs and expecting it to land, I don't think that's the way you're going to beat Tony Bellew. I think this time he's there to set traps, and if the old David Haye is here, not the old David Haye exists anymore, but the shades of the old David Haye where you're setting the traps and you're setting things up, then you can maybe catch Bellew and with the big shot that you wanted to catch him in the first fight and maybe end it. But if not, I think the second half of the fight is going to answer some questions again.
Do you think that we're going to see David pace himself a little bit more this time? Because I know that from round one on the last fight, he really went hard for the knockout initially, but do you think that this time around he's going to pace himself out?
I just think he'll be jabbing and setting traps and doing all the other stuff. I don't even think he was really pacing himself in the first fight. Or not pacing himself. I think he was throwing no punches and then he'd throw the occasional haymaker, just to try to end the fight.
He was relying on that knockout. It was like he knew or felt like, I'm just going to knock him out.
Yeah, and I think that's how he trained, or the approach to training was. I think that, you're not going to, Tony Bellew is a world-class fighter. You're not going to go in there and say, I'm going to hit him with a big shot. You're just not going to land that big shot unless you set it up, So I think in order to set it up, you have to train to set those traps. You have to train to sharpen up those traps. If you're not sharp, you're not going to, even if you're setting the traps, they're not going to work. So I think the assumption here is David has been really quiet and really confidently quiet because he practiced and he actually trained the way he's supposed to on setting these traps and setting up Tony for what he would assume would be the big shot. But, we'll see. Like I said, Tony doesn't just give it to you, and Tony's not the kind of guy that when you do give it to him, when he do land it, he just, takes a hike. He's going to hang around and punch you back in the mouth, so we'll see.
Tony says that he intends to knock out David Haye. Do you think that he's capable of that?
I think he's capable of a stoppage. I wouldn't say he's capable of a knockout, but, like I said, second half of the fight, we'll see. I think if Tony can get it into the second half, probably the last third of the fight even, I think, I think it's really interesting. I'm really curious to see if round 9, we get to around 9, 10, 11, 12, where Tony and David are at, even mentally and physically.
Now, since we're speaking about the heavyweights, the big talk right now is that $50 million offer from Deontay Wilder to Anthony Joshua. Can I get your take on the negotiation process so far, like that has actually been publicized? Because there's still a lot we don't know.
There's a lot. It's probably still a lot we don't know. But as far as what $50 million is, you need to show that money in escrow. And if the money is in escrow, then you can move forward with the negotiation. When people come up and say they have this kind of money, when only one side of the table says they have this kind of money, well, they have to show the other side of the table that the money exists. So it has to be in escrow. It has to be there. And once it's there, then you can move forward. It's the same thing. Eddie wants to see the rest of the contract. Eddie wants to see all the details. And it's normal. Just like Deontay Wilder, when they were offered $12.5 million, wouldn't take it because they want to see all the details first. So you can't expect Eddie to take the 50 if he didn't take the 12.5 for the same reason. Of course, maybe they're saying, oh, we have 50. But you don't know what else is in the pot. But you don't get to know what else is in the pot. Just like you told us, you have 12.5 for us, and we don't get to know what else is in the pot. So I think maybe it might be just a wild goose chase where they're going back and forth at each other with the same game. Because I feel like they played the same thing. It's just Eddie gave the offer to Deontay for 12.5, and then Deontay gave the offer for 50. But nobody wants to show the rest of the pot. And you have to prove that the money exists. Obviously, in Eddie's case, the $12.5 million, he can prove that money exists. But in Deontay's case, the $50 million. You have to put it in escrow and see if the money exists. But there's a lot more details than just making a money offer. It doesn't work like that.
But seeing the level of this fight, we know that this fight's going to gross a lot of money. Did you feel that the $12.5 million was enough? Because it's U.S. dollars, it's not pounds. And I know that I'm hearing now that Joshua's like, well, I wanted 50 million pounds, not $50 million.
I don't know. I don't know what this fight brings. In Europe, Joshua's a very big name. In the U.S., he's a name, but he hasn't fought there. And in order to make this fight sellable on pay-per-view in the U.S., I do think Joshua has to have a fight in the U.S., at least one. I don't think Joshua would sell very many pay-per-views in the U.S. right now. I think people are curious about him and they want to watch him. But as far as buying a pay-per-view that involves him, I don't necessarily see that being the case. So I think Joshua has to fight in the U.S. in order for the pay-per-view to be sold on that side of the world. And
it doesn't seem like he has the intention of wanting to do that, because when he fought Parker, he said, what's the point? Look what we're doing here in the UK.
Well, then if that's the case, then I don't know that there's as much money in the pot as people think, because if you don't sell yourself to that side of the world, then you're not going to get buys on that side of the world. So you're going to shortchange the entire pot, So I don't know. Like I said, these are things that people on the inside know better than me, because they have access to the actual numbers. I can tell you what to look for, but I can't get to the numbers that I need to see. So we'll see what they come up with.
Hey fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you do so by clicking this icon right here, or else